Welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking about covered call options, and more specifically, we're looking at the most common questions that come up when people talk about covered calls. If you have a question about covered calls, leave a comment below and let's start some discussions. The first one you see a lot is the question, are covered calls safe? And the answer is, I think so. So a covered call means you own 100 shares of the underlying. So if the option goes against you, all you're doing is selling those shares at the price that you already agreed to. So that's kind of one of the worst case scenarios. The other one is that you're still holding the shares of the stock. So if the stock goes down, like you still have those shares. So like your risk is still same as though you own 100 shares, but you collect a little money by selling a covered call. Another question that comes up is how much can I make selling covered calls? And the answer is whatever you are comfortable with. If you look at the Apple option chain, if you go out a month, you can sell a covered call at about 20 delta and get a 1% return. And you can do that every month. So that's 12% over the course of a year. Basically, that means you can make 160 bucks in a month by owning 100 shares of Apple. And their dividend would just be $26, and that happens every 3 months. So that kind of gives you a little gaugement of how nice covered calls can be. Like the next question is, when and why do I roll a covered call? When you hear rolling, don't let that freak you out. That just means that you're buying to close your current option and then selling to open your next one further out in time for a credit. Now, you would do this if your covered call gets breached and you want to still own the shares, like you don't really want to get rid of them. You can roll out in time and even roll up in price, and then hopefully it'll expire worthless that time. And then if it doesn't, you just roll it again. So that's kind of the philosophy that some people do. Another reason why you might roll a covered call is because an upcoming dividend might be coming up and there's not enough extrinsic value in your option contract. The person who bought your covered call might choose to exercise early in order to capture the dividend. So in order to avoid that, you can also roll your covered call out in time to put more extrinsic value into that so that they don't benefit from exercising early. Another question I saw was someone asking about a covered call that was about to expire out of the money. They wanted to sell their next covered call a month out early before the current one closes. And my advice would be don't do that. Like, don't risk losing your small fortune in order to save a penny or two. So what you would just do is just buy to close that call contract first for like $2 or $3 and then sell your next one. Like, don't risk the bank trying to save a couple of dollars. It's just not worth it. So that would be my advice. If you're selling your second iteration of your call with the other one still on, what if some news broke out, like world peace just happened, and your stock goes soaring? Well, your shares get called away on that first one you had, and now you have a naked covered call, or sorry, not even a covered call. You have a naked call that's now deep in the money and you owe a lot of money. It's just not worth it. Someone else asked, will I lose the dividend if I sell a covered call? And the answer is no. You still own the shares unless that option contract is exercised. So you can collect the dividend while you sell the covered call, and you're just making that little extra income in addition to that dividend. So what is the risk of early assignment of the dividends? Well, we already talked about that briefly, but basically, if the extrinsic value left on the contract is less than the dividend, it's beneficial for the buyer of the contract to exercise to collect that dividend, and then they can turn around and sell the shares at market if they want to. They're just looking to get that dividend. To avoid this, you can roll your option contract out in time to put more extrinsic value on. And if they choose to exercise early anyway, you just say thank you for the quick money because that's free money. I've only had that happen one time to me where someone exercised a covered call early, and it was more beneficial to me as a result than sitting there to get the dividend, which was just awesome. So if they do it early while you have a lot of extrinsic value on, say thank you for the Christmas gift. What do I do if my covered call becomes deep in the money? Well, you got a couple of different options. One, you can do nothing. You sold your covered call at a price you were fine letting your stock go away at, and now you got to fill up that obligation, but you're already okay doing that, so you do nothing, and then when the option contract expires, your shares will just disappear. If you still want to be long those shares and still have them, then what you need to do is roll that contract out in time. Hopefully you get up in strike 2 to increase your chances of being out of the money. So you buy to close your current contract at a loss, then you sell to open the next contract for even more money than you just bought the last one back for. So you're rolling for a credit, so you're still making a little bit more income. You're getting like a second chance to have the option expire worthless and get off scot-free. Some people actually dedicate their entire strategy to doing this. They will continue to sell covered calls at the money and then just continually roll them when the time comes. They're just trying to collect that theta the entire time. So that's what some people do. So what is the downside to just selling covered calls? Well, your big downside is that you're still long 100 shares of stock. So if the stock goes down, you're losing money. But that's the same as though you own 100 shares already, so no big increase there. The other thing is that you limit your upside. So if the stock moves past your strike price, you are no longer benefiting from that movement. You are capped off on how much you can gain from the stock movement up in price. Now, if it goes in the money like that, you can roll to kind of chase, and that's why people love rolling options. What strike should I sell my covered call? And there is no one answer for that, unfortunately. Like, you're gonna have to find out what works for you. Some people will only sell deep out of the money calls, and that'd be like 5 delta or maybe 10 delta if they push it. I'm fine with going up to 30 delta. And I guess I should explain what delta is. Delta is one of the Greeks of an option contract. You can see it on your platform. And it's a number between 0 and 1. Basically, when you say 0.2, that means there's a 20% chance of it finishing in the money, which means there's an 80% chance of it finishing out of the money. So if you're selling a covered call, 80% of the time, you're going to win and have nothing to do. So that's kind of what that means. So if you're new to selling options, look at the delta. That's one of the ones you want to learn about. You don't need to learn all the Greeks, but that one's one that everyone should know. So someone once asked me, what if I really wanted to sell my shares? Can I do it with options? And the answer is yes. You could do it with covered calls. Instead of selling an out of the money call, what you would do is sell a deep in the money covered call. Basically, you're kind of looking at a price that you think there's no way this stock is going to go below this price. And that way you know that your share is going to get called away at expiration. When you do this, the benefit is that you're still going to get some extrinsic value. So you make a little bit more money than if you just sell it out right now.